Welcome to Exploration Overland. My name is Zach, and today, guys, we are going to be testing out this new product, which is new to me, from a company that I have tested products out for before. This is by SUPAREE. You guys may remember I did a product for them last year. It was the storage bags that I have in the back of the Jeep still, and they worked really, really well. Well, this time they have reached out to me again to do another product review for you guys. And honestly, when they told me what the product was going to be, I didn't want to refuse because I think it'll be helpful. So how is this video going to go? This video, we are going to unbox the product so I can show you everything that came in this box. I have opened this box one time, guys, just to make sure that everything in there wasn't damaged. Then I'm going to give you some facts on the product. I'm going to show you how to install it. And then we're going to test it out and see how it works. Now this video will be in a bit of stages because we're going to be able to do this part now, and then we're going to have to wait till it gets dark out to do the other part, and you're going to see why here in a second. But let's get into it. Okay, guys, so SUPAREE sent me this to test for you guys, and I thought, why not test it for you guys, because there are tons of different things of this out there. And what is this? This is Offroad Lights. That is correct. This is a 7-inch amber off-road light that is styled off of Baja designs, if you will. That's what it looks like. But it is an off-road light that they offer. And when they reached out to me and said, hey, do you want to test out this light? I thought, why not? Because honestly, guys, if these lights are great, which I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you guys, this will all be an honest review, straight up. If I don't like the lights, you're going to know. If I do like them, you're going to know. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. But these lights only cost about $100. Yeah, that's why I wanted to test these out for you guys. Because I like testing out products that, one, are kind of budget friendly, and two, to see if they work for you guys. Because if they don't, you don't want to go near it. If they do, why pay high prices for something that works just as well? So these literally cost $99 on Amazon. There will be a link in the description. But so far, in this one box, we have, and yes, I pulled this out. This is not just dangling around in the box. I had to pull it out to make sure it would fit with where I'm mounting it. But you get mounting hardware, one light. And when I say it's $99, it's $99 for 2 lights. Not just one, but you get 2 7-inch LED amber lights. Now don't get me wrong, they do have a clear light as well that's in the 7-inch, but they sent me the ambers, and you do get mounting hardware for both lights. And ladies and gentlemen, that's all that's in the box. Bunch of styrofoam. And a little SUPAREE sticker. You don't need any of that. So let's get into these lights a little bit, shall we? All right, so let's get into the specifics about these lights. And yes, I have my notes nearby to make sure I give you the correct information. First off, boop, don't need that plastic. These are truly an amber light. You cannot remove this cover to make it a clear light. If you want a clear light, they have that. This is specifically amber. It is considered to be a all-weather, all-seasons light. It is supposed to be completely waterproof. There is only one hole that I am aware of, and that is right back here. It's super tiny, and it is supposed to be a ventilation hole so that no condensation gets underneath the light cover on the inside. It is an aluminum, yes, I said aluminum, that's how I've always said it, don't argue with me. This is an aluminum housing, so it is actually pretty light, guys. It does feel very strong. I will admit, the only part on this that feels kind of plasticky is the cover itself. You can hear it. The rest of this feels really solid. It's really, really nice. And you do have your wires here in the back, and they are pre-stripped for you. I will get into what the coloring of the wires mean, because the wires, there is an extra wire in there that is not for switching something on and off. It is for wholesome different thing. We'll get to it. This does have about 7,800 lumens of brightness. So they claim. We will put that to the test. This is why I said there's going to be a second part to this video where we have to wait till dark, because I cannot test these during the light. But that is what it is there. And honestly, guys, just from the initial boxing and revealing, it was packaged really well. It was packaged in that styrofoam. It did not shake. None of these have any damage to them whatsoever. All the brackets and stuff come in this little bag, and they have a little slot in the styrofoam where they sit, where they cannot hit the lights. So the packaging overall was good. My initial impression of the light is it feels like it's going to be tough, sturdy. As I said, this part, the housing, you know, the covering for the light, is the only thing that at the moment I would beg, if a rock was to fly up and hit it on the road, I don't know if it would bounce right off or not and not crack it or scratch it up. But so far, the lights seem really, really nice. Now, as I said earlier as well, these are sort of styled like a Baja Design Harbor Freight kind of light. They have that nice, you know, tough look to them. I do like the way they look. And as I said before, these are only $99 and you get 2 lights. That's a big, huge bargain, guys. And we will find out how these work. Just to compare them, though, to the other 2 lights that I've mentioned, Baja Design lights are about $500. The Ox Beam style lights that you can also find on Amazon that look very similar to these are about $200, and Harbor Freight's version of these style lights are about $150. So yes, these would be at the lower end of the totem pole. However, they don't look any different to me. So far, I am very impressed with how these look. Now, let's jump over to the garage, because it is now time to install these on the Jeep. All right, guys, so where we're going to be installing these is, because I already have front lights on my bumper, I am going to be installing them here. They're going to become A-pillar lights, which I think will be pretty cool to test them out and see. Now, there are a few steps before we can just mount these up and go. And I'm saying this because it's going to be way easier if you take care of these steps prior to mounting them. Now, one thing about these lights, you can mount these lights anywhere you want on your rig. Because I have bumper lights, I'm going to mount them up here on the A-pillar, and it'll also give us a better way of testing them so there's no, you know, conflict between the lights. But first, what we need to do is we need to wire these. Unlike a lot of the other lights, these do not come with a bunch of extra wiring. This does require some wiring on your part to do, which honestly, guys, for $99, I wasn't expecting anything other than that. And because they come pre-stripped already, this should make it a little bit quicker, and also gives you the versatility of putting them wherever you want without having to deal with a bunch of extra wires, because the cables that were provided were way too long for wherever you want to put them. So let's go ahead and start wiring. But because I'm going to put them here, I'm going to show you guys the route in which I'm going to wire these to connect them to my switches so I can control them from in the cab. So let's pop the hood of the Jeep open and start this whole wiring process. It's not going to be difficult, guys, I promise. Okay, now the hood is open, I'm going to show you where I'm going to wire them. So you guys know the A-pillar is literally right behind here. It's right on the other side of this. What I am going to do is I'm going to run the wiring through the cal, right out through this spot right here on my Jeep at least, through this little foam insulation, or where a bunch of other wires run through. I am then going to run it all the way over to, let me spin you, to my switch box right over there. And once they are wired into the switch box, I will be able to control it all from my switches in the Jeep. If you have the factory, you know, standard auxiliary switches, it's the same concept. If you don't have any auxiliary switches and you're going to wire these to an actual switch, it's roughly the same concept, guys, okay? So let's start getting into the wiring of these lights. Remember how I said on the wiring you had 3 different color wires. You have your red, a yellow, and a black. Now generally when you look at these kind of wires, you generally think black is negative, red is positive, and yellow would be running to a switch which would allow you to turn it on and off. That is not the case with these lights. Black is still negative. Red and yellow actually operate the light. So this light has a basic, it's called a work light in their terms. All the outside rings are the work light. Those are controlled by the red wire. The middle light, which is what they term a false laser light, basically it's the beam of light, is ran off of the yellow wire. So these two wires are going to go into the same port on your switches to turn it on and off. Otherwise, if you just wire it up so you don't use the yellow one, you'll never have a middle light on. Now, if you have the ability to wire it to where the yellow is wired into a separate switch to do it, you can. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to wire the yellow and red together so that the whole light comes on at one time, and the black is still negative. Okay, so when it comes down to it, you're gonna need wire. Yes, some assembly is required. Fortunately, at least for me, I do most of my wiring anyways, so I have all the wiring that I need to do this. And like I said before, guys, though this does require the wiring, it is kind of nice because you get to place it where you want and have the exact amount of wire that you need, not a bunch of excess cord that you have to wrap up and then try and store it somewhere. So this will be fairly simple. Like so, the driver's side, the wire is going to be much longer because for me, my switches are located on the right hand side or the passenger side of the vehicle, and then the passenger side light will be much shorter in the wiring. So I'm going to go ahead, wire these up, guys, because all it is some simple wiring, some connectors, and I'm going to heat shrink a little bit of stuff on there to waterproof it, and we'll go from there. Step 1. Peel away more of the main wiring protector. 2. Remove the pre-stripping from the red, yellow, and black wire and trim the wire down to size. Step 3. Twist the red and yellow wire together so they will work on the same switch. Step 4. Place a connector over the red and yellow wire and crimp it together. Step 5. Cut an appropriate amount of wire needed for the wiring. And when I say I cut the amount of wire that I need, guys, I physically went over and measured this from where I wanted it to where it's going to go. It's a bit longer than what it needs to be, and it's like that for a reason, because I can always shorten it when I go to connect it into my switches, but it allows me to have a little bit of play to wiggle the wire where I need to without pulling it and trying to tug it and having it too short. But you need to go and measure how much wire you need before you do this. I'm not going to teach you how to measure wire. You guys are old enough. You can figure out how to measure out what you need. Step 6. Take the appropriate amount of wire you just measured and place it into the connector. Step 7. Crimp that wire down. Okay. You've seen me get all the way to the point of step 7 where I have crimped the wires into place. I'm going to repeat 1 through 7 for the negative wire, the black wire. I'm going to repeat those steps, and then we will continue on from step 8 going forward. But the first 7 steps that you do for the red and yellow wire are the exact same for the black wire. Heat shrink the wires and add waterproofing if needed. Now we're to the point where we need to install the light onto its bracket so we can then wire it. And SUPAREE provides you with all the hardware that you need, guys. First though, you need to take the 1-inch bolt that is given to you and slide it into the little carriage. Because as you see here, these 2 holes, the longer bolt is going to go through, which holds your light in place. And if that's in place, your light is going to hang down, which you'll see in a minute. It's going to be very difficult to get this bolt into place. So go ahead, stick that bolt through. And what I like to do is simply just put the washer on the end of it so you're not worrying about this bolt popping out, okay? All right, next we're going to mount the light to this. And to do so, let's drop you guys down here a little so you can see. It's going to simply mount into place like this, okay? This is your extra long bolt that they provide you. You're going to slide it through the bracket and you're going to push it as far forward as you can. Now, one of the things I have discovered with lights over the years is that most of the time it is a very, very tight fit, which requires a little assistance. So what I'm going to do, guys, is simply provide just a little bit of help to get it through. The goal is not to hit it so hard that it breaks the light. You're not attempting to do any of that, guys. You are just simply trying to get the light locked into place with that bolt. You are simply just trying to get that bolt pushed into place. I'm going to take the provided nut and stick it on the bolt, twist it into place, and I'm just going to get it finger tight for the moment. And the reason I get it finger tight is so that this, as you can see, still has the ability to move. If I was to just crank this down, I'm not going to have the ability to move this around a bit to help try and tighten the base. For me, what's very, very important is getting that base nut in place, because that's what's going to stop the light from moving around in its holder. So I'm going to drop that into its holder, and I'm just going to let the light rest against the window of the Jeep. It's that simple, guys. I'm just going to let it rest into place while I grab, once again, the nut, and I'm going to play the threading game. Boom, just like that. I have it roughly finger tight to this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten up all the bolts and everything for this so that it is going to sit just the way I want it to. Boom, just like that, guys. The light is mounted, it's not going anywhere. Now I'm going to do everything I just did to the passenger side, and then we'll pop the hood back open and start wiring up these lights. Alright guys, just like that. They are all wired up. All we gotta do is put this cap, all we gotta do is put that cap back on like that, clean up some of my mess, and let's go flip the switch and see what these things do. And light! Wow guys, that was very, very bright, and it was awesome. And as you guys saw, I did do that comparison between my KC highlights and these lights up here. Now don't get me wrong, one thing to note right out the bat, the KC highlights are a beam light. They do not give me a ton of light like these do as a work light. But when it came down to the comparisons, guys, these gave off so much light, both in a beam pattern and as a work light. I was able to see everything really, really clearly and in pretty good detail. I was very, very impressed with these lights. And, you know, it's nice that a light is such a budget-friendly thing that works and actually looks really, really good. I do like the way that these lights look on the Jeep themselves. And guys, ever since I installed these, from the very beginning of this video, it's actually been a couple weeks. It has. I have been putting these lights through the test so that I could give you my full opinion of these lights and how they work. I have had these out in the rain. I have put them through the test out on the trail in the evening time. And guys, they work. It is awesome to have a set of lights that you can buy, whether it's a clear color or an amber, that just work and are inexpensive, which is awesome. Now there are, like I said, there are a few cons with these lights, one of which is, and that is my biggest to me, is you do have to wire these lights up. They don't come with nice simple plugs and wires and things like that. You do have to do some wiring, but as I said before, you get to customize the wiring, if you will, and how much length. That's my biggest con with these lights. Otherwise, guys, they work really, really awesome, and I'm very impressed with the amount of light that they put off at night. It is good to know that these lights are going to provide that much light so that you can see everything you need to on the trails. But if you guys would like to know about these lights or would like to buy these lights, a link is in the description below. But a link is in my description below for these lights, guys. But thank you all for joining me. I hope you found this informational. I hope that you have found this helpful if you are looking for some new off-road lights and you don't want to break the bank. Guys, these are awesome. Thank you all for joining me, and I will see you all next time out on the trail.